I think that we humans have a built-in authenticity sense, and we just have a sense whether something's been airbrushed or whether this story is something about it is not quite human. And I think that we will inevitably get stronger at that. And I'm already starting to see a counter to the AI music world with younger musicians playing real instruments. Right? There is some fantastic young players coming through who have extraordinary ability because they've learned using YouTube, right? And they can play. And so there is a sort of a renaissance of human created art that I think is inevitable.
Step into the world of success with Your Brand Amplified, the ultimate podcast designed to unravel the intricacies of thriving businesses. I'm your host, Annika Jackson, and I'm on a mission to uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets that have propelled entrepreneurs and business leaders to success. It's not often that you're surprised by a guest, but Will Henshall, my guest today, happens to have been part of a band called London Beat, who had a very, very popular song. So, Will, I've been thinking about you this morning to prepare for our interview and remember having fond memories of that time in my life.
Was it a high school thing?
It was, yes, a high school thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's always so great.
I'm sure you hear a lot of that, but great.
Yeah,
song.
I hear some great stories when people say, oh, this song meant so much to me because of XYZ. My favorite one, I'll jump straight into a very quick story. I was at Burning Man.
Oh, yeah.
A few years ago. And I was out where I've been thinking about it, was playing somewhere, and some kid came up and he said, my friend just told me you wrote this song. I was like, I did. I played the guitar. And yeah, I was in the band. And he said, my parents told me that they had sex and made me while this song was playing. And here I am. I was like,
thank you for
letting me know.
I'm thinking we may
Best
know
one ever.
several of the same people. What camp do you go to Burning Man with?
I've not been myself since 2014. So it's been 10 years, but prior to that, I was in many different camps. And I actually went for the first time in the mid-90s when it was just a group of retrograde, dangerous nonsense in the desert with firearms. It was kind of dangerous back then.
The first time I thought about going was in the late 90s. I was working at Raygun Publishing. Remember that magazine? And there were a group of people who were going to go. I never did make it, but I am a Burning Man adjacent, having been a club promoter and having a lot of friends in that scene. So, yeah. But you didn't think this is the way we'd be starting this interview?
I've listened to your show. I've listened to a few episodes, and I can say there is no north.
Yes, this is true. This is true. And that's what keeps it interesting for me, and I believe for everybody who's listening today. So talk about your beginnings, being an artist, inventor, and now moving from serial entrepreneurship into Metal Men, what I think is a movement that's so needed today.
Thank you. Yes, it is. So yes, when someone says, what do you do? I say, well, I'm an artist. I'm a creator. I'm an inventor. And I like to make stuff of all different kinds. And as we've already talked about, yes, in the 90s, I was the founder and the guitar player and multi-instrumentalist in the UK soul pop band London Beat. And I've been thinking about you as number one everywhere in the world. It was so exciting. And, a real dream came true, just being in the right place at the right time to have the right song. And I was in a band with these three astonishing African-American soul vocalists. So there's me, I'm a pasty English white kid, and I had these amazing singers. We became very close friends, of course, during the 9 years of being in the band. And they taught me a lot about life. And I was working as a record producer behind the scenes before I met them. So I knew a lot about the technology and the sort of process of how to write a song with a loud chorus. And here's the hook and, what makes things sound good on the radio. And we had 5 well-known songs, but Thinking About You eclipses them all. It was the song of the year. I was the BMI PRS Songwriter of the Year because of that in 1992. And it, still today, it is one of the most played songs on the radio in the world from the 90s, which I can hardly believe, but it is true. I've been thinking about you too. And it was just so anyone listening to this who's a creative, if you're a writer or you make art or you're a storyteller or whatever it is, you just get this idea gets given to you, right? I mean, I didn't write, don't tell anybody this, but I didn't write Thinking About You. I was there at the right time with a guitar in my hand and a pen and a pad when it just came to me, the whole damn song. And so I had like 90% of the song ready. And then I took that to the 3 vocalists and I said, I got this thing. And they were like, that's good. I'm like, well, they put the phrase that pays. So they helped finish it. So I wrote this with the guys. There was 4 of us, 4 writers.
Right.
And I'm the major writer, but still it was a real joint effort. And what was so great, just going back to my point about if you're a creative, is you're just there when this thing happens and it has a life of its own, the successful things you do.
But if you didn't take it right then, it would have wandered off to somebody else.
Yeah.
Right. And you wouldn't be...
A friend of mine...
Yeah.
A friend of mine, Daryl Hall, the writer, he was one of my songwriting partners who taught me a lot about this back in the day. He said, you got to listen when God says, get a pen.
Yep.
Get a pen. And now I just listen for that little message, get a pen. So that was like the artist part of me being an artist as a musician. But since then, I've worked as a professional photographer, the art being, that's the art and science of creating imagery that has value to your clients, that fits in the format. There's a lot of stuff around that. And then I got really interested in neuroscience. I also own a business called Focus at Will, which is a music service that helps people if you have ADHD. Focus at Will. Find it on the app stores.
I'll be looking for that.
All my friends are kind of ADD stuff, all that stuff. And they're all, and they're the fun people. We are the fun people, Annika. Just saying.
Well, we're the people who always have, we're the dreamers, right? The people who have big ideas and are willing to try them out. Yeah.
I mean, all ADD means is it means that you have, it's attention deficiency. What that means is that you need a lot of different stimulus to be able to focus when it's best. So people with ADHD tend to work best in noisy environments when there's a lot of stuff going on. And at an extreme, I would describe Elon Musk as someone with a really extreme version of this. You would need to have, the music on here, you got your headphones on, you're listening to a game, you're having a text chat with someone else. There's like 9 things all happening, and yet you're able to pound out the task at hand. Right. So Focus at Will, I started that in 2010. The short version of what it does is it's different for everybody, but for about 1 person in 3, which is quite a lot of us, listening to the right music at the right time can really help you dial in and focus.
Yes. So
that's what that did. And then, yes. And I've done a few other things. And now, men's work. And the reason we wanted to come and talk to you is this. You're all about what's the secret of success and amplifying your brand? And is there anything, individual fascinating stories? Well, we have found that, yes, there is a proven, sure method of success as a guy running a business. I say guy because we're a men's group. I'll talk more about that in a minute. And it is having a network of heart-centered, kind guys who are successful at many different professions and doing many different things. And you develop this peer group of guys who will help you. who will, metal.men is the website. So it's about guys that will help you. And we're an organization that's about members helping members. And, if you're a successful guy, we've found, wrote a book. I don't know if we sent you the information about it, but Ken Rakowski, my partner, and I have a copy of it right here. For those that are listening on the podcast, not watching, I'm holding up a picture of the front cover of our big promotional copy of it. But we were really interested in finding out, what do successful and people have in common? And one of the key things is having access to a network of peers who are not random guys that you've met. They're not like the parents of your kids' friends or someone from, church or no, these are guys who've had a lot of success in their different fields and can help you. Metal.men, it's not a networking business group, although guys get a lot of business out of it. But we're an independent group, by the way. We're not affiliated with any political or any publishers. We're a standalone business, been going for 23 years. And so, that's the men's group.
Yeah. Well, and I think, so I'm a big fan of finding your tribe, finding people who you can talk to and feel safe, right? That psychological safety is really important. I'm a member of a group called the Human Gathering, and it's a big mix of people, and we're randomly assigned to each other to have these deep conversations every month. And it's really beautiful because it's not machine algorithmed, right? It's a person who's actually looking at people's profiles and matching them. So we can have these intentional conversations. And you find a few people, right? Because it's not set up as a group like yours. But most of my tribe, if you will, or the people that I network with and I have conversations are people who've been guests on the podcast, or I've been on their podcast, and we connect. And then we say, hey, let's continue doing check-ins with each other and let's introduce each other to these people and these people. So it can be really difficult sometimes to find that intentionality and find that group that's not just going to be about, business networking or, hey, we're all coaches, so we're going to share and make each other affiliates or whatever the case may be. So I'd love to hear a little bit about the start and what was the intention? Why did you say, hey, this is the right time? Because gosh, you've been in business 23 years, that most groups like this have not been around nearly as long.
Yeah. Ken Rakowski, who is the founder of the group, started this in the early 2000s. And it started off as a breakfast club in Los Angeles in person, where Ken is an amazing man. He's a community builder. He is an amazing host. He is almost a savant genius at looking into the future and figuring out what's going to be important. And he started this in 2000, as I say, 2001, I think. And then I got introduced to this group, and it's a men's group. Why? Because men are better men in the rest of the world when they're in regular contact with other kind, heart-centered, successful men. We tune each other up. That's how it works. That's how it's meant to work. And that's what we do. And I was invited to join in 2009. So I've been a paying member for 16 years. And it has been the most important thing I have ever done in my life. And as you rightly said, I've had a successful life. I've had a bunch of platinum records, and I've got 5 patents as an inventor, and I've done all kinds of things, that exited a couple of companies. This has been the most important thing. And the reason why, you touched on it, I think, with your networking. This is not a what's in it for me, I can scratch your back, scratch my back, here's a deal, I got a discount code. No, This is not that at all. This is a group of men who get to know each other well over time. We're about 800 members all over the world. It's a hybrid virtual. There's a Saturday morning show. Any guys listening, just check out on metal.men. You can get a free guest pass. Come check it out. And we have 3 TED quality speakers every Saturday. Yeah, it's fantastic. And then we figured out some of the mechanics of how to create community using Zoom and the Zoom breakout rooms. You have to do it very intentionally. You have to have someone who's really like a a drill sergeant making sure that this is what we're talking about. This is in so many minutes and da-da-da-da-da. And when you get that, and we have another golden rule. We never talk politics. Ever.
Yeah.
So new guys come in there and go, well, what can we talk about? I'm like, dude, we've all just been this barrage of social media, and that is a small percentage actually of life. And so we can talk about a lot of things. We can talk about science. We can talk about relationships. We can talk about teenage kids. Yikes. Right.
Yeah.
We can talk about the future. We can talk about what you care about in life. There's
the things that really matter, not the things that are the distractions that we see every day and that tear us apart.
Yeah, especially in these. And of course, I think about a third of our users are overseas. I'm talking, despite my accent, I'm based in Los Angeles. Been in the States for 42 years. Yeah. The accent has always helped me, I have to say. And I go, I'm never gonna lose it. Trust me. My wife is very beautiful. If I didn't have this accent, there's no way in the world that she would have married me. I mean, I know it. But that's the thing about the men's group, anyway, is that you get to know a group of guys who come from very different backgrounds, who care about you, and I've got a lot of life experience. If only in my 30s, one of these guys had said to me, are you sure about marrying that girl? I would have been like, I'm not sure. No, they went, it would have been a lot easier to have not married her and then dealt with what I had to deal with in terms of an ex-wife situation. And I remember at the time before I did get married then, not being sure about it and having no one to talk to.
Yeah, because your friends aren't necessarily going to tell you the truth or what they feel or what they think, or they might not even see things that you're experiencing. They're going to tell you what they think you want to hear because they don't want you to be hurt by or lose that friendship, right? Because of if they're expressing something different than what you're feeling in the moment. So this is a group of people who obviously you invest a lot of time. You've been a member for a long time, and now you are a partner and the CEO.
Yeah, I am.
So
co-host.
All of the things. And so it's been really meaningful to you, but I can see how having people who are not in your life every day can help objectify issues that are very personal and help you see a bigger picture.
Yeah. Age-wise, we're mostly sort of late 30s upwards. And the things we have in common is that everybody, all the guys to an extent, are Renaissance men or polymaths. So we're all interested in, and most of us are good at more than one thing. And we've got a really wonderful group of guys who are over 70. And the way it works is if you've been a metal man in good standing for a couple of years, when you get to 70, you can pay us whatever you want, $1 a year, that's fine. And so we have this elder counselor, these guys are rock and roll. These are guys that these guys are not retired. And my best friend in the group is called Dr. Robert Heller. He's 89.
Amazing.
Still working. CEO of a number of different things. He got divorced when he was 84 because he'd had enough. I was like, wow, okay. Wow, Robert. Then he went on Match or Bumble or one of the above, and within a couple of years got himself an amazing, new girl, lady partner, girlfriend, whatever you call it. And she's fantastic. And he's wise because he's been a physician for 66 years.
Wow.
66 years.
Yeah.
So he knows a lot about how people work,
And what's really beautiful about that is that you have people with some life experience, some work experience. Since you said the youngest members are kind of in their mid-30s. And then, but you also have, because that's something hard to find sometimes in society today, right? Is respecting our elders and all of the experience that they can give to us and their perspectives and understanding what's really important.
Yeah. We have a number of really well-known guys in the group. And in particular, Nolan Bushnell is a regular member. He's in his early 80s. He was the guy that founded Atari, literally invented the video game. And then created Chuck E. Cheese. If anybody who's got a kid is just like grimacing, just like going, really? But he invented that because at the time, there wasn't anywhere for the younger kids to play and test out and then want to buy video games. And so it became this brilliant kind of funnel for buying Atari and then other video games. Fantastic. And so we got some other well-known guys. We've got Kenny Aronoff, who's the rock drummer, and quite a lot of other sort of well-known faces of all kinds. Interestingly, many of the guys that come in are introduced by their wives or girlfriends. And that happens because their wives and girlfriends have been talking to their friends.
Yes.
Whose husband or boyfriend
needs a friend.
Is a metal man.
Yeah. Very familiar with that scenario. But I also think it's important to find a group because my partner is he's a filmmaker and creative and does a lot of different things. And they're all kinds of men's groups that his friends belong to, but they're a little more woo-woo than he would like, perhaps.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to go out and do, Hell at the Moon or do different things and I'm not knocking that, but I think something that's what I'm getting from this group and being able to have those deeper conversations about life and help people figure out what's your next step, because with things changing so quickly with technology and knowing if you're in the film world, jobs are overseas. There's perhaps, you've written a script, but you might not want to invest $500,000 in an indie movie, knowing it might not get purchased. So what do you do next? So having people to bounce those ideas off of who are also really creative, like you said, polymaths and people who have been there.
Well, another principle that we found from our book is that successful men and all humans, but in particular successful men, I'm talking from a men's group perspective because I'm a guy, is having a work-life balance. And that's much more difficult to do than you might think, because in different phases in an entrepreneur's life, you got to go all in. You're going to be pulling 100-hour weeks. You got to make it happen. And once it's lit, once the fire's lit and your idea's working, or you've started a business and you're discovering this is an experiment that didn't work, right? Lean back, do another one. And if you think about the world that we live in right now, in your work situation, no matter what it is, everything is speeding up. AI is even faster. Today, another thing is even better than last week. It's this increasing rate of change, and you've got one foot on the platform and the other foot on the train. But in your personal life, you got to slow down. Smell the roses, hang out with your kids that are only going to be 10. This right now. Sit with your friends, do a dinner where everybody puts their phone in a box over here, right? You enjoy slow cooking, right? Walking on the beach, getting in the mountains, and really being a human. Hang out with your dogs. I'm a big fan of dogs because they're like instant present machines. Like just now, before I was on this call, my dog came in and he was like, I said, I'm busy. And he's like, no, I'm coming in. Right. How are you? Yes. I'm like, if you'd have come on, I'd been like, I'll be right with you.
You could have brought him on. My dogs sometimes make little guest appearance. Well, I shouldn't say my dogs. One of them just passed away, but yeah. Oh. But I think it is important. And I love going on tangents and seeing where we wander. I'm just back in North America from 3 weeks in the UK and Ireland.
Okay.
I took my daughter over so that she could try out a summer program at a university there. Right. Now we're in Vancouver. She's trying out another 2-week program to see what it would be like to live on this campus, because she's going to be a senior next year in high school. And yeah, so a lot of big change is happening, and it's also happening in my life. And I think as moms, we talk about this with each other, but I think for men, you may not have that support system to talk about all this change that you're going through and what do we do next. And I was traveling probably every 3 days because my partner came over, my sister came over. So it was a little harder to get all of the work done than I needed to. But I went on hikes and I got to experience what I was, the areas that I was in. And coming here now, I'm in Vancouver and I was going to go on all these walks, but now I'm tethered to my laptop because I'm trying to catch up and there has to be something different. So from the women's perspective, I completely see why that's important and why you need people to talk to about these big areas of life.
I think it's fair to generalize that women find it easier to form groups and talk about things that are more emotionally driven. My wife is a therapist, and so I see this on a daily basis. I get therapized whether I want to or not on a regular basis. How do you feel about what you felt about yesterday, what you felt about the last week? I'm like, I don't know, can I get a cup of tea? But I think it's fair to say that women are a lot better at communicating than men are. And so men often, especially if you're in a position of leadership at work,
yes,
you don't have anyone to talk about things that are vulnerable and real. And actually, you can't talk about to your staff. We have a meeting. There's a number of other sub-meetings within the metal group that happen every week. There's about 35 member-hosted expert shows. And one of them is called The Foundry, which is a unique format and process for men's work that we have in the group. And it's where we talk about these kinds of things. It's a confidential space, and you can talk about empty nester. Something I hear on a fairly regular basis is, I've grown apart from my wife because we've had the kids. They're just about where you're at right now. They're just about to go to college. And my wife and I don't really know each other.
Yeah.
Help. It's not that they don't want to be together. They've just been, right? You've been in two parallel tracks going along, soccer practice, And how do you, what's the mechanics of getting together? What has worked? And other men will say, I've been there. This is what worked for us. Someone else will say, no, don't do that. It didn't work for us at all.
Yeah. So when you're thinking about this, I mean, obviously you also talk about things that you deal with in work. You talk about, perhaps you talk about AI, or talk about different advances and how the world of work is shifting, and other things that you need to know to be great, strong leaders in the workforce and be able to lead your teams effectively into this through this in-between time and into the new normal.
Yeah, we have a very strong AI group within our group. And if any guys are listening to this and you want to become a guest member, you get 3 weeks and you'll get access to the AI group, which is an amazing group of very knowledgeable men within the main group. They meet, they do a Zoom call once a week. It's all scheduled out in the metal system. AI is, obviously it's on everybody's lips right now, but it's going to make changes that we can't even imagine.
Yeah.
And most of the guys who understand AI think that it's going to be positive, which is reassuring. There's going to be some significant heartache and some big change, but they think ultimately that it's better for the world that we live in.
Yeah.
A good example that my doctor friend was saying that, you go to a physician, you got a 60% chance of him or her, diagnosing actually what you have correctly.
Right.
That also means there's a 40% chance that you don't have a cold, my friend. You have a pneumonia, right? And so AI doctor tools are already now 80% successful today.
Yeah. But that's,
accurate.
Again, why groups like this are important, because the human experience is still going to exist. And we have to figure out, what does it mean to be human? And I would say what it means to be human is to have connection with each other, to have a group of people you can rely on, that you can talk to about things that stay human, that are creative energy and pursuits, the ability to take that time, like you said, balance. And I'm like, what is that word? Balance, having that work-life shift. Because I do think the world of work is going to change. And just like somebody may be having empty nest syndrome and figuring out how to reform a relationship and a bond with your partner, we're also going to have to figure out, how do we form that bond with others when we don't have to spend 40, 50, 60, however many hours a week at work instead. So as we talk about this, I'd love to hear, you said this is the most important thing, the most important work that you've ever done. You've had an amazing career and you've done amazing things. Why is that? And what led you to say, I want to have a bigger stake in this organization?
being around intelligent, accomplished men from many different backgrounds broadens the mind. You know, you were just saying that you've just traveled. You spent 3 weeks in the UK and Ireland. The Irish, so much fun, by the way, in terms of, where were you? Did you go into the West Coast and do the real trip?
We just did Dublin and Cork.
Okay, Cork is great. Yeah. The Blarney. Oh, I don't know. It's fantastic. But travel broadens the mind. An absolute truism, always has been the case. But being around a community of many hundreds of men who you get to know really broadens your mind. And as I said earlier, the organization is based on members helping members. So it can be in many ways. It can be personal, it can be professional, it can be private. But the professional help that guys get, many of the men that come into the group are here because they've got a business challenge. They are looking for, funding help or advice, or they've got a board problem, or, their product market fit was perfect 5 years ago, but the market's moved, right? There's all of those things. And many of the guys come in and they are able to get help for that core thing they're looking for help with. But during that process, they get to meet these other men and you develop friendships that are unique. Guys in New York that you'd never usually know. You'd know guys in Dubai that you'd never met. There's guys in London, in Germany, in Portugal. And now all of a sudden, like, you're going on vacation into Europe, but you're going to go to Portugal to see the 3 metal guys you've got to know well in Portugal. And then you're going to go to Italy because there's a guy that owns a castle. True story. His name is Prince Stash. You may have seen him on the socials. He's a regular metal man, a guy in his 80s, super rock and roll character. And so this network develops, which is unique. And so for me, I've been a regular member for many, many years and developed the network and had all kinds of help and had helped many other men that I'd met. And then Ken Rakowski, he had a personal situation with his divorce and his life. And so he needed some help getting the organization back on its feet again. And I leaned in and I said, Ken, I love you. And that was 6 years ago, a temporary situation for a few weeks. 6 years later. You know how that works.
Yes.
But I'd love to just go back to the very first thing, which is your brand amplified. And so the most successful thing you can do as a man who needs to amplify your brand in any capacity is to join a men's group like this. It really, really helps in all capacities.
Yeah, it sounds like it's been a profound shift for you. I love the fact that you brought up stories about some of the elder council and shifts that they're still making in their lives in their 80s. Is there one or two other stories, or are there one or two other stories that you'd be willing to share anonymously about members? Because I also find it really intriguing to hear these stories, but then also I'd love to learn, as a secondary question, how do people find you? Because there are people from all over the world. So is it really good word of mouth?
Yeah, word of mouth. It comes from wives and girlfriends of guys. It comes in that way. Word of mouth, metal.men. If you do a search, you'll find us. We don't do too much on the socials because we don't need to, and it's a time soak, right? We're on LinkedIn quite a lot. The members it's very interesting. Often someone will have an idea. So there's a lot of entrepreneurs in the group. I'm on my 9th startup right now doing another thing with the musical instruments. And guys find each other through the group and form new companies. There's been many. Nolan Bushnell has found his CEOs for 2 or 3 of his most recent startups through the metal group.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's funny, when you start an idea, you start a company, you have this kind of preconceived idea of, who you need as a partner. I've got an idea for a widget that fits in the kitchen that does this. So I need a, partner that does this and a da-da-da-da-da. But you find when you're working and when you get to meet the experienced men, that's not what you need. this is a different way. What you should do is 3D print a bunch. I'm just making this up, but it's a kind of valid way. You should 3D print a bunch of these and then go into a kitchen store and just leave them around and see what people do. They pick them up. And if someone picks it up and looks at this new coffee maker, it's a fake one, of course. You can ask them, what do you think of this idea for a new coffee maker? You don't tell them that it's just and then you get thrown out of the store. But that doesn't matter, because what you discovered is that someone picked it up and was interested in it. Right. So this idea of iterative development, this idea of what's the best mechanism to raise money for a business? Sometimes it is an equity stake. Sometimes it's a debt. Sometimes it's pre-sales of a GoFundMe kind of thing. So we've had really quite a few startups come out of metal. I talked about Prince Stash just now. He's got a website called The Real Prince Stash. He's a fascinating man. He's in his 80s. He's a real prince, European, owns a castle in Rome and another one in, I think, Switzerland. And he talks like this because he was educated in Britain. Hello, old chap. He's like this. But he has just started a new startup with a guy called Alan Grosvenor, who is an AI ballistics expert or something like some defense thing. And they've started a new business that is creating a new form of nuclear power.
Wow.
I mean, hello. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's just one of many, many stories that happen in the group,
Amazing.
It's fascinating to, as I'm telling you about it, I'm like, well, what else? There's so many different things. And Ken Rakowski, I mentioned it before, he is the host of the Saturday Show. And the Saturday Show has a section, we jokingly call it Ken's Brain. Mm. And it's where he is looking at the news and the latest things that have happened in the week. And he is always able to put his finger on 2 or 3 really key things. He told us about crypto before there was such a thing called crypto in 2013, right? He told us about AI was a thing in 2015. We're like, okay. He talked to us about how he thought COVID was going to be a big deal in December 2019. He was right with that.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating having, our host have this ability kind of to see, just like see things. He sees connections between things that we humans don't normally see.
It sounds fascinating, and it's almost too bad that it's only for men, because I would love to come in and just watch all the brains, right, happening and having these conversations. We have your website, we have your book. We're going to have that in the show notes, clearly. So I'd love to hear maybe one last thought from you. And of course, do you have a favorite quote, mantra, verse, poem, motto, words that continue to inspire you to create, innovate, and connect?
Many. I think the classic is the Nike slogan, just do it. Just effing do it. Just do it. Because as a creative artist, even if you don't feel in the mood to create, the act of making yourself create will kind of clear the blockage. You must see this as a writer yourself. You're like, just do it. Get it going. Start it. Stop it. Don't overthink it. Just make it happen. And then you'll be tacking along in this thing, which is a terrible idea. And all of a sudden, your non-conscious mind goes, oh, there's this thing. And now you throw that away and you're off. Yeah.
Fantastic. Will, is there anything we didn't cover? Yeah, I feel like, of course, this is the time when I'm going to say, which I haven't said for a few episodes, because every episode comes exactly when it's supposed to. And in what's going on in the world, having a group where you can connect and get out of, like you said, the social media, the news, the things that are happening, and be able to have honest conversations that aren't centered around politics or divisiveness, so that you can get to these points of creating new ways of doing things, starting new companies, all of the wonderful things that you all have done.
Yeah, when you're around intelligent, accomplished people, they help you join up dots that you can't see on your own, that once they've been joined up are like incredibly obvious. Like, oh, yeah, these 2 ideas, fantastic. And I think that's been the value of mentorship. For me, there's a lot of mentors, and we tend not to encourage coaches to come into the group unless they're really renowned at the top of their game. We have a handful of coaches like Dr. Jeff Spencer and Craig Filek, who are two super well-known coaches. But having mentors is really important. And we've found something that old dogs, new tricks, new dogs, old tricks, right? Sometimes a mentor can be someone who's 20 years younger than you, who's got a new and a fresh. We have a guy called Jason Azevedo. He's a friend of mine. He's a member of Metal. And he's still in his mid-30s today. He's a genius. And if I or anyone else has an idea for a product or you're stuck on a strategy, I'm like, go talk to Jason. I met him many years ago when he was in his late teens. I was like, wow, this young fella is brilliant. Good Lord. And so knowing that mentorship can come from many different directions,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's important for us all to think about, because there's so much going on in the world and there's so much technology, and the person who has been around the longest might not know, like you said, the best way to do that specific thing that you're looking for, and vice versa. So having this intergenerational time together and deep conversation is wonderful.
I think the last thing you asked me about, a sort of an aha moment, and it is that particularly I'm an artist, and AI generated art of all kinds, right? Films, music, books, writing. I think that we humans have a built-in authenticity sense, and we just have a sense whether something's been airbrushed or whether this story is something about it is not quite human. And I think that we will inevitably get stronger at that. And I'm already starting to see a counter to the AI music world with younger musicians playing real instruments. Right? There is some fantastic young players coming through who have extraordinary ability because they've learned using YouTube, right? And they can play. And so there is a sort of a reminiscence of human created art that I think is inevitable.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I look for, I feel like we have a little bit more to get through with people testing out and trying the AI, and that's art, and that's not going to go away. But the fact that this does give people that time and ability to say, I'm going to pick up an instrument. I'm going to pick up a book that's actually a physical book. I'm going to, do this activity because these are the things that remind us that we're human. So that's
go hiking.
Yeah.
With just a map. That's how we used to do it when we were kids. I said, we'll go for a hike, no phones. They were like, well, what happens if we get lost? I'm like, dude, there's a map.
Yeah. Can you read a map?
A map and a compass.
Amazing. But this has been a lot of fun. I think we could probably go down many other rabbit holes, but this is a good taste for those who are listening. And for any of you men in the audience, as Will said, you can have a free trial of Metal Men. We'll have the links in the show notes so that you can see if this is the right group for you. And I have a sneaking suspicion that I have some people I'm going to direct your way as well. So,
wonderful.
Yeah,
wonderful.
Thank you for being here. And thank you to everybody who's watching this episode or listening to it on your favorite platform. It's always appreciated and means a lot. Thanks for listening or watching to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast listening platform. And if you want to learn more, check us out at yourbrandamplified.com.